Here's something strange about your ancestors. It's not that they survived the wild, it's that if they saw you right now, the end result of everything they fought through, they'd probably look at you and think, this one's not making it through the night. Drop you out there, in the world that actually made your species, and the rain soaks through your clothes in minutes. It gets colder. Every little sound starts to feel like it's coming for you. Every snap of a branch out there feels aimed right at you. You'd spend the whole night trying to remember some survival video you half watched at 2 a.m. once. And the dark just keeps getting louder. Meanwhile, somewhere in that exact same dark, your ancestors weren't just getting by. They were thriving for hundreds of thousands of years. No tools like yours, no knowledge like yours, and zero clue that their own great-great-grandkids would one day panic over a power cut. So what did they know that we forgot? Let's go find out. It's weirder than you think. Out on the edge of the Kalahari, a man is crouched low in dry grass, totally still, watching a kudu eat grass 100 yards off. No bow, no spear that can reach that far. What he's got is patience, bare feet, and a plan that sounds dumb enough to be crazy. He's just going to start running after it. And not stop. Until it falls over. The kudu takes off. Of course it does. For the first 10 minutes, it's way faster than him. He keeps going anyway. The kudu has no idea what's happening. Every time it stops to catch its breath, the guy chasing it is still there. Not running flat out, not attacking, just showing up again over the next hill. Like a bad dream that won't end. You wouldn't last 20 minutes doing this, and that's not because you're weak. It's just that your body has never had to prove it can do this. His has. The first hour just hurts. The second hour turns into real suffering. And somewhere around hour 3, that suffering just becomes normal. He's used to it now. Here's the wild part. Most four-legged animals can't cool down and run at top speed at the same time. Their breathing locks to their stride. We don't have that problem. We sweat. We breathe however we want, running or not. Our bodies were basically built to pull off this exact crazy plan. 2 hours in, 3 hours in, the kudu's body is heating up past what it can handle. It slows down. It stumbles. And eventually, this man, with no weapon, no plan B, just walks up to it, exhausted, confused, and finishes it with his bare hands. This is called persistence hunting. The San people of the Kalahari still do this today. Researchers have actually run alongside them to check it out, and yeah, it works. It's why you've got the legs, the lungs, and the glutes you're sitting on right now. Your body was built for this. You just never got the chance to use it. You'd have given up after the first hour. They never did. That hunt is just one trick out of dozens, and every single one points back to the same question. How did people with no labs, no books, not even a written word keep figuring out stuff that should have taken centuries of careful testing? Start with this one. The strange part isn't that people ate dirt on purpose. The strange part is, how did the very first person figure out which dirt wouldn't kill them? Some clays soak up poison like a built-in stomach filter. Bitter wild potatoes, too poisonous to eat plain, became totally fine once dipped in the right kind of dirt. Someone had to be the very first person to try that, and somehow live long enough to try it again. You'd have thrown that dirt away. Or take this one. Way up in the Arctic with no jacket, no thermal gear, people rubbed melted seal and bear fat straight onto their bare skin. And it actually worked. It slowed down how fast their body lost heat. But who was the first person to even think, let me rub dead animal grease all over myself in the freezing cold? And here's the thing. Nothing from that seal got wasted. It turned into warmth, light, waterproofing, tool grease, and tomorrow's dinner. Every part of it, used. You'd have called that gross and walked away from it. And honestly, eating dirt and smearing on animal fat weren't even the weirdest things they came up with. Compared to what's next, those two are basically normal. Picture this. You're the very first human on Earth to try it. You hold up a chunk of ice toward the sun. Just ice. Nothing else. And somehow the light passing through it squeezes itself down into one tiny bright dot. A second later, smoke. A second after that, fire. Out of ice. The exact thing that was trying to freeze you alive just lit your campfire instead. Now, picture actually seeing that happen for the very first time, with zero idea why it works. Try imagining how you'd even explain that to someone who wasn't standing right there with you. You wouldn't have even guessed the ice could do that. And it kept going. Mash up dried meat, melted fat, and dried berries, and you get a little cake that lasts for years without going bad. And it's still got everything your body needs in it. Centuries later, explorers on real expeditions still packed this exact recipe, because nothing newer ever beat it. You'd have called it basic and packed something fancier instead. Now here's how they dealt with the actual biggest killer back then. Not animals, not falls. Infected cuts. They smeared honey straight onto open wounds, and it turns out germs simply can't grow in honey. Somewhere else entirely, totally different people who never met or compared notes did almost the same thing using moldy old bread. And that mold is a distant cousin of the stuff penicillin came from, way later. Nobody understood why any of it worked. They just noticed, do this, and the wound usually gets better instead of worse. So, they kept doing it. You'd have scraped that mold off and tossed the bread. And here's where this whole story falls apart. None of this, the dirt, the fat, the fire, the honey, actually explains how humans survived. All of that is just evidence. The real thing happening underneath it is something else completely. In every camp like this one, there was usually one person who couldn't hunt anymore, couldn't run, could barely keep up when everyone packed up to move. And she might have been the single most valuable person there. She couldn't fight. She couldn't chase anything down, but she remembered. She remembered the bad drought 40 years back. She remembered which valley the predators liked to hang around in rough winters. She remembered which berries had gone bad and exactly when. A group that kept her close and actually listened to her beat a group with one tough, talented hunter going solo, every time. One person by themselves can't watch for danger, keep the fire going, find food, and hold every hard lesson in their own head, all at once, forever. A group splits that load up. And an old woman who couldn't run anymore basically became the group's memory bank. So if it wasn't really the tricks themselves, what was it? Not toughness, not raw smarts, not even just paying close attention, because one person's attention dies the moment that person does. What actually kept this whole species alive was bigger than any one of those things. It was shared memory. Thousands of tiny, separate discoveries, made by thousands of separate people who never met each other in their lives, all flowing into the same fire, generation after generation, so no single person ever had to carry the whole weight alone. Someone noticed that potatoes dipped in this exact dirt stopped making people sick. Someone else noticed that wounds packed with this exact bread healed instead of rotting. Neither of them had the words to fully explain it. Neither had anyone around to confirm they weren't imagining it. Neither had any guarantee it would even work the same way twice. What they did have was an old woman by the fire who remembered both stories and made sure neither one died with the person who first found it. You'd have walked right past the plant that could have saved your life. You'd have tossed the mold, the dirt, the ice, not because you're dumb or careless, just because one person alone isn't built to notice things the way an entire watching, remembering group eventually learns to. Paying attention wasn't just a nice habit for them. Passed down, shared attention was the actual machine that kept this whole species alive, long before anyone ever called it civilization. Civilization didn't start with stone walls. It started the moment one person learned something useful and someone else made sure it didn't die with them. You're not by a fire tonight. You're probably on your couch, holding a thing that knows more facts than every person who's ever lived, combined. And you still couldn't start a fire with ice, or read the ocean well enough to find a tiny island 3,000 miles away. Your ancestors carried their whole survival system inside actual human minds, passed mouth to mouth, fire to fire. We carry ours in batteries. Honestly, the biggest survival trick humans ever pulled off wasn't really about being smart. It was figuring out how to keep important knowledge safe somewhere outside any one fragile brain. First inside a tribe, then inside a book, then inside a machine. And every time we did that, the knowledge got a little safer from any one person dying, but it also drifted a little further away from anyone who could actually rebuild it from scratch if it ever just disappeared. So here's the question worth sitting with after this video ends. If every screen on Earth went dark tonight, how much of humanity would still be left, just inside your own head?